They can
and
have
they
a
set
break
a
from
time
listening
limit.
to you.
Yeah, so they put you in groups of 4 and then they have a time limit.
And then it's cut off and then you're back to the class.
Oh,
so good afternoon, though, to those of you who are just coming in on this webinar. Good afternoon. We are just about a minute or two away from starting. So you're listening to the pre-chatter from these guys.
Hello, Mr. Craig Hunt. I can see you've just dialed in. Good to have you there.
Don't favourite. Is he the favourite of yours? You've got to be nice to everyone. Now you've got to say hello individually.
He's all our favourites.
You know, you've got to say hi to all of them.
Craig Hunt organises Travel League. He's everybody's favourite.
I've met him.
He's every Travel League.
The truth comes out. Craig Hunt is Travel League.
Yeah.
We need a Travel League earlier than December, I think.
Just one every week until December.
Every Friday, Saturday night for me at the moment is Travel League at home in my lounge room by myself.
Right, stop mucking around. Okay, so I'm going to disappear. Bye-bye. Hopefully you can't see me. And I'm going to press this go live button and then you can start. Are you ready?
Yes.
Can you see the box for me on there? If someone could tell me whether
Yes. So you can stop talking anytime you like.
Okay. All right. Then. I'll tell you. So I'm pressing go live now.
Okay, cool. We're good to go. So Richard is going to disappear and do all of our eyeballs a favour for the next hour or so. And so you get to look at 3 ladies with hair and Walter. So my name is Sarah. I'm a travel industry rep and I'm joined by 3 of my favourite people. Not that everybody else isn't my favourite as well. I'm not taking sides here. But I'd like to introduce you to Kate, Walter, and Tennille as well, who is has disappeared from my screen at the moment. So she's still here. So thank you for giving us an hour in the middle of your Friday, just before it's time for knock-off drinks as well. So you're probably madly trying to wrap up the last couple of things, or maybe just getting out of bed. That's cool too. I know I did. Sorry, Jared, if you're watching this. But we've been seeing a lot of conversations starting to happen now that restrictions coming out of lockdown are starting to lift, and there's a lot of hypotheticals and theories and just random chit chat kind of coming out about what the travel industry is going to look like as we come out of the lockdown period, what's potentially going to be happening, how are we going to do our jobs as well, especially for the 4 of us who are on the road sales reps. I've not been on the road in 3 months. I don't even know if my work pants fit anymore. So, where do we start? How do we do this? So there's been a lot of chatting coming out, and Richard was crazy enough to decide that I'd be able to have this chat and share it with everybody, and just kind of start this conversation a little bit more. So I guess a couple of rules, if you like, for today. Richard's going to be manning the Q&A section in the chat. So if you do have any questions on Facebook or via the Zoom webinar, just pop them in there, and we'll try and get to them in an orderly fashion where we can. For my fellow panelists, if you guys talk too much, I will shut you down. I've been shown where the mute button is and I'm not afraid to use it. So let's keep it short and sharp. And I guess most importantly of all, I just want to make it really clear that the 4 of us have come together today to have this discussion as travel industry reps who love what we do, and we're quite experienced in being reps. But the discussion we're having today is very much our own opinions and ideas and information that we've been hearing and receiving. So it's not necessarily the view of our companies that we work for, or may be currently on hiatus from, but it's very much our own, hopefully, opinion on what things are going to end up being like. So I was thinking probably the best way to start would be to introduce you to each of the presenters, or panelists, I'm going to call them. It sounds fancier. So I'm going to just kind of give you guys a minute each, and my finger is on the mute button, just talking about a little bit about yourself, a little bit of background, why should people care or even really want to listen while you're talking today. I might throw to Neil first.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. So as you know, I'm Neil, and I've been a relationship manager for over 11 years. So I'm based in Victoria and currently working for Chimus. I'm working 2 days a week on JobKeeper. I guess, as Sarah says, we've all got the same thoughts of how the industry is going to look afterwards. And I've had a lot of different chats with friends and colleagues and peers in the industry, and some parts of my job that I did before pre-COVID won't have changed post-COVID, but it is going to be a very different world at the end of it when we do get back on the road. So look forward to discussing how that's all going to be today.
Yay. Then one of somebody who I know is never short of an opinion, so also a great option to have in here. I'd like to introduce you to Kate.
Hello, what an introduction. Thanks, Sarah. I'm one of 2 Kate Fosters that works in the travel industry in Australia. So I'm the rep Kate Foster. People will know the other one. I've worked in travel for probably, I think it's 12, 13 years, both internationally in London and in Australia. Been a rep for, I think this is either 8 or 9 years. Time flies when you're having fun. Both in Western Australia, the Northern Territory, and most recently I am a Vic rep. I think repping's all about relationships, and hopefully my agents out there would say that it's about sharing information and just having a friendly face to go to, and a source of knowledge for whatever product you're repping and you're passionate about. So this chat's going to be awesome, and send your questions through for sure.
And lucky last is a man who needs no introduction, the great Walter Nant.
Oh my Lord, that's a great introduction. Thank you. Considering I was told I was on here as the old guy who's been around for a long time, so hopefully I can bring some experience to that. Yeah, look, there's been a lot of chatter around the place, and I think that as we go through our discussion today, that will evolve even more. So yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, I've been around for a long time. I've been in Australia for 16 years and have been repping pretty much that whole time, with a little 6 months hiatus when I went and worked in retail. So got a good taste of what it's like on the other side of the desk for a period of time. Obviously, retail, not great for me. I'm too busy getting up and running around all over the place. So back out on the road.
Busy running things. So I guess from here, we'll start to try and talk a little bit more about probably our current situations, because it's always good to start from the beginning. So I guess one thing that's really important is we've all, in choosing this panel group, is that we're all from very different current situations as well. So for example, let's start with Walter. Walter, you have just pretty much launched your own businesses over the last 12 months with Ride the World Motorcycles and also Unique Cruises. If I'm doing the names justice. But so it's been a little bit tricky for you, I guess, starting a new business and trying to get momentum going. So once this lockdown started, how did you keep delivering value so that you're not starting from zero again?
Really good question, and it was a challenge without a doubt, and I almost wanted to go running back to my old company, which I absolutely loved anyway, so only left because I was starting up my businesses. Great time to be kicking off travel businesses, I have to say. So I did...
I think Richard feels you there.
Did wallow in self-pity for a few weeks and just trying to figure out what the next option was, because clearly just going out and getting another job in the industry isn't going to work. So I had to think about it, and what I decided to do was really ramp up my foundations of the business. And with Ride the World Motorcycle Tours with David Reeves, we sat down and discussed the fact that really we can't get this time back again. We don't know how long it's going to last. So let's make the best use of the time to build a solid foundation for moving forward. And part of that with both Unique Cruises and Ride the World was to really get more active on Facebook, because that's where the bulk of our business will come from as far as social media goes. And that's done really well for us. For both companies, I post every day, every morning. Unique Cruises goes up at 6:45 and Ride the World goes up at 7:45 every morning.
Old machine, good. I like it.
Yeah, and for those of you that know me, I am so not organised. So to get that down, and for the last 10 weeks, in fact, it's been for Unique Cruises that every day a post has gone up. And the structure and style in which we took on that was really to tell a story. It's not about trying to convince people that they need to travel. It's trying to take them and just really create that imagery of where they can go once this all lifts us. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So with the river cruise companies or with the barge cruises, which I represent in Europe, every cruise starts on a Sunday and finishes on a Saturday. So that just made it a really nice story. So every day we go through and say, here we are today, here's what you can see, here's what you can do. And then on Sunday we start a new one. And with
almost
the
like
motorcycle
a virtual
tours,
cruise.
like a virtual tour, absolutely.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
And with the motorcycle tours, essentially the same thing, except oftentimes our motorcycle tours are 2 weeks in length. So I'll do 2 days at a time to fit it into that 1 week rather than stretching it out over a 2 week period.
Okay.
So
Cool.
that's really where I've shifted to in that space. And I'll just say,
a social media prodigy.
Oh, yeah, learning some new things, I have to say. But on the other side of that, I've also contacted a number of travel agents who are good friends of mine over the years just to see how they're doing. Haven't got round to anywhere near the amount of people that I would have liked to have connected to, simply because the conversations that I thought might take 2 or 3 minutes ended up being like an hour long with, discussing about the industry and things like that.
That's been one of the really nice things, hasn't it, though, the sense of community that's come out of all of this. There's no quick catch up.
Yeah, indeed.
Maybe that's just a salespeople thing. But I guess talking about social media, Tennille, you're probably one of my favorite travel industry people to follow via social media because you've got a really good presence on your Facebook and LinkedIn. And so with you, as you mentioned before, you've gone to a kind of part on, part off job keeper mixed setup. So how have you, as somebody who uses social media really well, and being part-time as well, have you managed to kind of make sure that what you're presenting to people is actually different to the million other Zoom meetings that are happening right now?
Well, as you know, it's all about connectivity at the moment. And as Walter said, there's so many Zooms. I feel like all day I'm just in one webinar after another, after a Zoom, after a, Skype session. So I wanted to kind of connect with agents, and it was too soon straight away to be ringing all agents or emailing, because obviously the travel agents were dealing with refunds and everything that was going on, and stores were being shutting down left, right and centre, and you're getting new lists of stores. So I have like a personal Chimu, and I have a personal Facebook, and I have a LinkedIn. So I've just been really active on that and just trying to connect in different ways without a training webinar. I did early on, I did a live video. A friend filmed me, and I was making a Grande Llama quarantini. So I was making basically an espresso martini, but with chili and Peruvian chocolate and Peruvian music. And it got over like 1,400 views on LinkedIn. I got a lot of great feedback on it. And then I did another one, another friend, a lot of people listening probably know Carsten from Riho. He filmed me one cold Sunday, and I went to the end of the pier in Mordialloc, but I actually pretended I was in Antarctica, and I was putting on all my clothes and my goggles and my hat. But at the same time, it was educational as to what to wear on an expedition. And even just sharing.
Just on a Sunday in Melbourne?
Just on a normal Sunday. So basically it was like being in Antarctica, because it was about 3 degrees anyway. And just trying to get agents interactive as well. Like we have a Chimu Facebook, and just, sharing Antarctic crosswords, or what do you want to hear from us, or sharing, there's a lot of, for example, just even an article I saw on LinkedIn that was 2 female researchers that were doing research in Svalbard in the Arctic for a month. Little did they know they'd be there for 6 months. That's how they survive isolation. So for me, it's just sharing things that are of interest to me, but it's also at the same time still connecting with my agents and letting them know that, hey, I'm here and we're all here and we're all in this together. So
just lucky for us, you're a bit of a polar fanatic then.
I am a little. I've got the polar bug, I must say that.
Yay.
Yes, definitely.
Good. And I promise I'm not paying her for this. And then I guess lucky last, Kate, Your situation at the moment stood down full time on JobKeeper.
Yeah. Yes.
What have you been doing, or how have you managed to kind of keep your finger on the pulse with the travel industry, be involved? Is there anything you can do? What's your journey been like for the last 3 months?
Well, it's been interesting. So stood down officially as of the 8th of April. So my computer tells me it's the 12th of June, otherwise I would have no idea. So yeah, I suppose it's been, like so many of our industry colleagues out there, it's been really challenging from a, I don't want to say necessarily a self-worth, but more of a going from having a work purpose to not being able to really, in a professional capacity, do what you've been doing so intently for so long, and kind of even reach out and contact agents, because that's part of a role that I've been told to not do in that capacity at the moment. So my fight or flight mode kicked in, and I kind of didn't want to waste this time. So I thought what I can do is keep my finger on the pulse, and social media has been really great with that, to get an idea of where not only the industry is at, but my agents are at. But also to kind of reflect on what sort of sales rep I want to be post-pandemic. When I grow up. And so, like many people out there, upskilling, but thinking, kind of linking directly into this webinar, thinking about what I'm going to do differently, and pretty much what I didn't necessarily like about my approach or my work life previously, post-pandemic. Who's the new Kate Foster as a sales rep? So lots of upskilling, no tears, which has been amazing for me, for anyone that knows me, just kind of this, let's just use this time to be better people.
Not that you're a frequent crier. You're just
make it through.
Passionate person.
Just passionate crier.
Passionate.
There we go. We'll combine
a passionate crier. Oh God. Okay, cool. Just before we talked about Kate crying, she was leading us into a really good segue into, I guess, the post-lockdown world, and what the new, maybe not just the new Kate Foster, but maybe the new rep, or the new rep world, the travel industry world even as a whole, will end up looking like. So now comes the fun part where hopefully we don't all share the same opinion. We've only really sort of lightly covered this so that we don't end up having our arguments off the recording and you guys miss all of the fun. So brace yourselves. So I guess I'll just keep talking to Kate then. Sorry, you guys can just take a nap or something. No. But I guess I'll throw it to Kate first to kind of start the discussion. Looking at travel industry relationship management as a whole, do you have a thought on what that's the new Kate Foster is going to look like?
Of course I do. I have several thoughts. I have thoughts all the time. Look, I think
I knew I could count on you.
There you go. Moving forward, look, we'll use the terminology post-pandemic. Post-lockdown's probably better. I don't know that we'll be less post-pandemic. I am of the opinion that industry managers, relationship managers, account managers, whatever your title is going to be, the role of being the go-between, is going to be really paramount. I think there's obviously going to be changes, and they're really positive and they're probably needed. But my observations since this all hit is the need for your go-to person, the need for your industry or your supplier representatives. And there's been a couple of standout, who I won't name, a couple of standout companies that I've definitely seen that were really quick to stand their sales team down. Completely understand why. I'm not saying it's wrong, but our agents had no one to go to them. They had no one to answer the simple questions, to bounce ideas off, to really just help. And I think one of the positives for myself, who's held a relationship BDM role for 8 years, is a lot of the travel agent views that I'm seeing online are how much they miss their reps and how much they miss having that go-to person there for a simple question. Really just to ring someone and have someone answer and go, what's your refund policy for someone departing on the 10th of May? Straight away an answer, instead of sitting on hold or reading it yourselves. It's freaking confusing. We get that it's confusing. So I'm quite positive about it. Travel agents embracing reps and wanting to work closer with reps. Again, I do think the role is going to change. I think agents are going to have more of a scope to pick and choose who they want to work with. The number of reps a company needs is probably going to gradually increase as travel picks up. International borders are killing us at the moment. If you're a domestic operator, great job. But, you know, international, like we're all sitting here waiting in limbo, but post-pandemic, post-lockdown, probably the further future than the immediate future, I think it's going to be a really great partnership between companies and agents, and you won't be worth your paycheck if you're not being a partner. If you're flyer dropping and you're just running in and dropping off chocolates and going, you know, sell my product, catch you later.
Yeah.
Agents are going to go, I do not have the time for this.
I think it's going
and
to be
they
really
always say that, but yeah, it'll be catch up.
I think it's going to be really important as well that BDM is probably the middleman or the conduit between the actual frontline travel agents and then heading into or feeding the information or the feedback that's coming from the frontline travel agents upwards as well. BDMs are really good at passing on messages. I know that can sometimes be frustrating, but I think post-lockdown that's going to be really important to make sure that we've got the right feedback coming through in all of the channels. And a lot of this, to be fair, we're going to need to be patient because we're all just going to be making it up as we go along. So making sure that you've got really strong communication and relationships between all of the different turning cogs on wheels. And so hopefully the relationship manager, I'm going to call us because it makes us sound fancy, it is going to fit in there. But probably one of the least fun questions I'm going to throw out there today is with, I guess, one of the harshest realities coming out of lockdown. And we saw it, you know, most recently, the writing on the wall in the actual numbers from Travel Bulletin. You know, if JobKeeper isn't able to extend and we're not able to kind of go with the slow build. So I'm talking with my hands a lot today, but if we're not able to go into that slow build, it's going to cost a lot of businesses the ability to operate. And I think that's even going to extend on the rep side of things. So every man for himself, but the not fun aspect of it is how do we get there's going to be potentially a lot of reps and not a lot of roles available as well. So maybe I'll just throw it to all three of you, but what's going to be one of those key skills or a couple of those key skills that people are going to really covet in the reps that they're looking to bring on board or stand back up? Or what's going to be the differentiator for all of us who are potentially just waiting for our turn to be called back to the front line?
Well, I think that there's a couple of aspects to that. Those of us who are on the panel today and yourself, Sarah, we've been around for a little while, and so we have good established relationships. So we can talk quite frankly with agents, and we also know that if they are getting angry at us, it's not a personal thing, and we can talk through that and adjust it. So I think for the more senior or more experienced reps, they will find it a lot easier in the transition as we come through it because they already have that underlying relationship. Whereas if you've got fairly new, I'll use the terminology BDM is just simpler for me. So business development manager. So the BDMs, in whatever guise that takes, if you're fairly new and you haven't got that established relationship with an agent, so you don't know if they are just a naturally angry person or they're feeling the stress. Or both, yeah, exactly. Whereas if you've been around a little while, you know that person and you can read the situation much clearer. The challenge, I think, is going to be for the actual wholesale companies in how they manage not only the financial resources, but also to the time resources. Because you cannot spread the business development managers too thin. Because
so, like, there's a potential that reps areas are going to be consolidated, and or people will less reps on across larger areas or something like that, looking after more agencies while we start to rebuild?
Oh, absolutely. And that would absolutely make sense, because at some point you do have to have that consolidation before you can rebuild.
It's not very fun, but it's fair. It's true.
It's not fun, but it's a business, right? And as much, look, we all work in the travel industry and we love the industry, and the thing that we love as reps, the thing we love most about the industry is talking about our products. And we get all excited, and that's what we want to do. And we'd like to have as many presentations as possible, not necessarily webinars, because you don't get that feedback, but certainly out there doing the face-to-face and telling people, this is what you should do when you're on holiday. Like, oh my God, I've got the best product in the world. And we bring that to our companies to say, look, we're passionate about the product, and we will take that to the agents and get them as excited as we are. And if you try to get too few people doing that, it gets diluted, because all you're doing is just rushing around, and the BDM themselves gets burned out, and the quality of contact goes down. So it's a fine line that we're going to walk as we progress forward, as to where that balance, and each company will be different, because you've got the big companies, which I've worked for, who have a lot more resources available, so they can afford to hire a few more people, whereas you've got the smaller companies that struggle to hire one BDM to cover 2 or 3 states as it is. So,
quick comments. Donna Jones says, exactly, love your work, Kate. Nice one. And then Craig from Penant says, really enjoying the chat, guys. So if people could maybe throw hands or say something really controversial, just to kind of burst things up, keep things exciting. This is like a real housewives.
My controversial comment is, I think that, look, I empathise massively with the head honchos in companies that, if JobKeeper is not extended, have to make these decisions, because eventually tourism is going to increase and it's going to boom. Australians have been locked up, I won't get into my rant about that, for 3 months, and all you see is like, oh, I was supposed to be in Bali, I was supposed to be in Fiji, it's going to boom. People think, oh, I'll never travel again because of COVID. They will. People have a short memory. But I also agree with Walter. Sorry, I wanted to disagree, but I don't. He razzle dazzles me with his opinions. I do think that as a job, the job or the role of the BDM is often underestimated with how much work we actually do. I think that people see us as flitting around buying coffee, doing film nights going on for meals.
Drinking a lot.
Yes, and they don't actually think or know or really care, not through being ignorant, but just they've got enough going on, about how much we do behind the scenes. So we need to ramp up all of our companies and all of our products and promote it. So where is the balance between having, dare I say, too many staff, or not enough people on the ground to be doing whatever the new film night's going to be, whatever the new webinar is, to promote your product enough so that, when the borders do open, you're sold out. You're looking on to 2022 versus scrambling for 2021, which we know in big companies like the company that I work for, we've rebooked pretty much the whole of the 2020 season is now 2021. We've got to start getting people to think 18 months in advance for travel now versus, oh, hey, I would like to go on a holiday next week to Peru. Okay, well, you can't. We don't have the availability. So,
well, even then,
I'm going to throw to you.
I'm thinking that. Well, actually, that leads into a really good question. Is for someone like Tennille, who is a bit of a jack of all trades in the role that you do for your job as well. I have a feeling it's going to be more important for reps to be that jack of all trades, wear multiple hats. Are we going to have to learn how to be social media moguls and have a bit of a marketing background? And then are we also going to have to potentially step in and be finance people and all of these kinds of bits and pieces? Is if a sales team becomes a bit more streamlined, are we going to have to level up on the scope of our jobs as well?
Yeah, I definitely think so, apart from the finance bit, but jack of all trades with everything else. But the role is definitely definitely going to change. And as we've already talked about, I've been doing a bit more with social media, but even just working more with the agents. Like, agents have always needed BDMs, but I think they're going to need us more than ever. But it's going to be really select who they want to work with and when they need us. Like, it might be whether it's once a week or, you know, a certain amount of time, but we're going to have to also research who's still in that store. Like, there's chances are that, you know, they've lost half their team, and maybe the seller in that store that sold, in my case, South America, has gone. So I'm going to have to retrain up the whole team, and then, you know, really work deeply with the owner and manager and the team to actually do marketing of these destinations and make sure they're upskilled and confident to sell the destinations again. So I think our role is going to be varied, and we are going to be doing, you know, marketing, training over the computer. We might even be doing expos, you know, online. I actually attended my first Zoom event last night, a TEDx event in Melbourne, and there was 200 people online and there was 12 speakers. And I thought, why couldn't we do an online expo? You've got 12 different, you know, suppliers keeping us to 5 minutes, which would be very difficult. And then you've got 1,200 that have got free tickets, and they can ask questions. So we're going to have to think outside the box. There's not going to be budgets to fly overseas and take out for dinner and, you know, do all these crazy things. It might be like, here's $20, get a bottle of red wine, get your team in, and Zoom in at 8 a.m. for some training. So
$20
so
is a lot for a bottle
if you're
of wine.
zooming in, though, you're drinking
a nice bottle of Malbec, not a cheap bottle of wine.
How are you doing drinks over Zoom, Neil? You're drinking the bottle of $20 wine, and then everyone else on Zoom's bringing their own.
I was going to go for the agent, but I will definitely be drinking a bottle as well.
I think one more thing that I keep saying I've loved about coronavirus. It sounds like I'm the new rep for coronavirus being really great. It's not, please. Is seemingly competitive companies are actually working together. Like, you know, we've had really standardized policies across the industry that are lumped together in cruising or airlines and all of that. And I already have bantered around on the Vic Reps page some ideas about all coming together, destination expos and destination film nights rather than the company, or just a coach touring. Like, so banding your resources together and it being about boosting the whole industry. You know, we're inherently selfish. A lot of us work to targets. We need to do it, but I think that this us versus them mentality is really going to be us with us moving forward. And again, I agree with Tennille. We're going to have to, I don't mean help in a patronising way. I just mean partner with agents and go, you used to rely on press ads. It's not working anymore. Let's do this instead. You know, you've got an older demographic that don't want to come out, you know, to a film night. So how are we going to reach them because they can't use Zoom? So it's switching on all of these different things that we've probably been apprehensive to try in case they fail. There's going to have to be none of that, none of the ego, none of the fear of failure. It's, we did that. It didn't work. Let's try something else.
Yeah, well, I guess up until now, it's potentially just been a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've loved our events. We've loved our Wine Wednesdays or our product nights and our fun things and definitely our famils. We should definitely bring those back.
And I think, Sarah, just to, step in there, I think things are going to change as well, like the whole just health and hygiene and safety. We're going to have to be letting our agents know that, you know, this hotel or this lodge sleeps this many people and there's hand sanitizer, or if you're going on a small ship, you might be having your temperature taken beforehand. But agents are going to need to know about that because they're going to need to be able to give that confidence to their clients. It's going to take a while for, you know, for clients to get their confidence up, but when they do, the travel explosion is going to be absolutely huge. But I think just going, you know, backing onto what you said, Kate, that's where our role will become really important as well, just to educate our agents on all the different new health and hygiene procedures that our companies and products and hotels and ships and everything have implemented due to COVID.
I'm predicting.
I think that's a really good comment, Tennille. The reason I'm saying that is because I've got an event on Monday on Sydney Harbour with regards to men's health. It's the start
Well
of
done,
Men's Health
Walter,
Week
by
on
the way.
Monday. Thank you. Thank you. And we have a guest speaker that's coming along from the Black Dog Institute, and I got a call from them today, just before this actually, to have a chat about social distancing, what it means for their speaker, what measures we're taking. Can I have that in writing?
Wow.
All these questions that I would never even considered before. Now, working with a cruise company, which have been just fantastic, we have the whole ship to ourselves, and there's only 20 people that we're going to have on board now, actually.
Sounds fancy.
So it's well, it's amazing in reality. So it's a rare opportunity for us to take advantage of in that sense. But to have the whole vessel to ourselves, there's no way we would have been able to do that previously. We would have had to pack that ship top and bottom. Whereas now, these new social distancing things are a reality. And to speak to Neil's point, when as companies, we need to make sure that we have our policies in place so that that is really transparent. When we're talking about the hotels that we stay at, we need to know what policies are going into the hotels. As I'm putting together some of the itineraries for the US for next year for our motorcycle tours, it's one of the questions I have to ask the hotels is when we check in, what does that mean? And do we have keyless entry? How do we minimize our contact? Because those are the questions that are coming in and saying, well, no, we're a little bit too nervous to go.
Yeah.
But if we can clearly state it out and say, well, here's the precautions. This is going to sound a little controversial, but for me, some of it is a little bit smokes and mirrors because it's what people want to hear. And so long as we've done our due diligence and that it's the truth behind, so long as they have that assurance, that's all they need. Just like, oh, okay, that's what you've done enough. I'm quite happy to go that you are actually thinking about it. So,
at the same time, I think there's it's a bit tricky that, I mean, realistically, a lot of this stuff would already be in place. It's just now got to be a lot more visible than it already was. I mean, theoretically, talking about a product for Antarctica, you scrub your boots on and off the ship, and you do scrub downs and cleanups and all kinds of things all of the time. So, up until then, nobody's really asked that question up until now. And we've been doing that to protect penguin colonies. Whereas now it's to protect people from other people, basically. And what's that going to look like? But then the whole process, or even what we're seeing now, let's just talk about, our own lockdown restrictions. So I'm based in Sydney. So as of tomorrow, I can pretend to go to the gym again. And I probably should actually go to the gym after trying to put some work pants on the other day. But what we're seeing, everything is changing at a rate of knots. I mean, it's only been a week, 2 weeks since they've introduced a limit of 10 people, and then all of a sudden we can now have 20 people, and it's been 1 week. So the rate at which things are changing as well, I think, is making it quite difficult to predict what's going to happen as well, because you think one thing's going to take X amount of time before we can do this. I mean, they were talking about a travel bubble to start in November, and now it's been moved forward to September, and maybe Queensland will just become a new country or something instead, and we'll do something else. But it's really hard to know what's going on. Oh, I'm just getting a few comments through. Uno momento, por favor.
There's a few questions been coming through. I've seen popping up.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay,
Yeah.
calm down, Richard. So Philip from Hello World, good to see and hear you all. That's very cute. Daniel from Daniel Zanetti sent some nice comments to us through Facebook. Thank you. We'll go back and read those because Richard doesn't want us to get a big head reading it now. Nikki Ross, Australians are amazing travellers. I'm also always saying memories are short, which is very true. Well, Aussies just love to travel, so I think they're going to take care of themselves. Natalie Freeman from Dream Cruises, enjoying this chat, guys. Nikki Ross, standardized policies is a great idea. People will shop around based on T's and C's, which I'm also taking them in refunds, potentially. The big dirty R word, but we'll come back to that one shortly. Annabelle Brown, good constructive conversation. Thank you very much. Tina Hunt, having a Zoom expo would be amazing for us country agents. Keep the costs very low, as it's often a problem when getting a BDM to seek approval from their boss. Wow, guys. Karen McGee, I love that everyone's chatting. This is cute. Karen McGee, I feel that clients will be asking these questions first and then choose the company they'll book from. So it'll become part of the selection criteria, I guess. Jake Cassar, hi everyone, with 5 exclamation marks.
Hi,
And a question from Craig as well, which would actually be a really good way to segue into kind of potentially a Walter thing. So from Craig Hunt, guys, do you think that agents are almost on receive yet? Are they looking for their lifeblood representatives for inspiration and help yet? So I guess I'm going to throw that one to Walter, as you've been doing some really interesting work with your BDM and travel agent surveys that have been floating around the various platforms this week. And you were nice enough to share with the 3 of us, plus Richard as well, I guess, just before. Do you have any insights based off those surveys that could?
Yeah, and I'm going to be glad. So I've got 2 screens up here. So if I'm looking up there, I'm reading because I've got the 2 different surveys up on each of the screens.
Cross-eyed.
Yeah. So if I'm not looking directly down the camera, that's what I'm looking at. Just
it was the lunch
stats.
beer he sculled just before this.
Oh, look, it was a challenge, but I got through it. It was really good, and I'd like to thank everyone from the BDMs as well as the travel agents who responded to the 2 different surveys. This was done nationally, so we got a good coverage from pretty much all the states, and we got, let me just have a quick look here, we had 84 travel agents respond. Now, this is a short survey, so it only went out a couple of days ago, so it'd be interesting to do a bigger one later on. But we also got 112 responses from our BDMs across the country. Just, I won't go through all the questions, but really when I was having a look at, what I wanted to really understand was, we as BDMs think one thing. We've all got our friends who are travel agents who may share the same views, they may share different views. But then outside of that, we've got all the other BDMs and travel agents that have their views as well. So what I wanted to do was really align and say, okay, well, as BDMs, is what we're thinking in alignment with what the travel agent community is thinking, and vice versa. And the first thing that stood out for me from both aspects is that the BDMs love being BDMs and they love their travel agents. And Kate, right at the very start, you mentioned my agents. And that's, if you talk to any BDM, that's what they talk about. They talk about my agents.
She's just very possessive.
Oh, it is very possessive. Well, we all are, really. But what's happened over the years is that with different companies, or in our rep roles, we're coming across different BDMs in different companies. Sometimes the company will take their BDM team and decide that it's a good idea to shuffle them all up and make it new. So they'll give them different territories and spread them out. And the amount of BDMs that I've spoken to over the years that find that absolutely devastating, because they've taken 2 or 3 years to build up this rapport and this relationship. The company thinks it's stale. Neither the BDM nor the agent does. And then you remove that, and then the agent now has to be introduced to a new BDM from the same company, but they have to redevelop that relationship all over again. So sometimes what we think on paper doesn't actually work out in practice. So when I'm looking at these responses, well, we are, and we absolutely are. Now, the response that I've got from the BDMs, I think, is a little bit of a concern in the sense that not so many of them think that they will have jobs coming out of the end of this. And we talked about JobKeeper, and I think that that's what's sustaining some people in their jobs. Some have been stood down already. Not sure what the future holds at all. JobKeeper kind of holds you in a little confusing place in some cases, from what I can see, because you're still on JobKeeper, so you still technically have a job, but you're not actually being able to do your job, which you're so passionate about. So we'll see how that develops. On the travel agent side of things, we had 84 responses to that. I found a little bit of a mix, and I think that that is indicative of what it was like pre-COVID, where some of the travel agents absolutely have built this relationship with their BDMs, and they are the go-to person, help them out with everything. And those that really didn't have that relationship with their BDMs anyway. And I think that's coming through in the survey results as we see it. One of the things that I did find really interesting, and we're talking about, sorry, I'm just scrolling down here, was about how likely, would you attend a product launch if social distancing measures were met? 80% of travel agents said that they would. So when we're talking about having all these online stuff, that's great, but we've got 80% of travel agents saying that if we had protocols in place, they would still they will still attend the live event.
So for me, I guess the vibe that I got from the responses, and actually just a really quick plug for Walter's surveys, they are still live.
Yeah,
I believe.
No, they've stopped. They've stopped because I had to pull the results out.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are you able to set it live again? Because that way we can throw it out to anyone that hasn't done it yet.
I will try.
We will try.
I will try.
And that way, if
absolutely.
we are able
if I can
for
do it,
anyone
then
that is watching now but hasn't seen the survey or done it yet, we'd love to get as many responses as we can. And it's been a really interesting one to read into. And I guess having a look at this literally just before, with Walter wrapping up the survey this morning, he's been a gun and pulled as much of it together as he can for us. So, but the key thing I got out of it was, effectively from a travel agent perspective, BDMs are much more up in the air about what's going to happen, but from a travel agent perspective, it seems much more business as usual, just don't be gross. Was kind of the overall message I got from it, like wash your hands, and follow. I think social distancing potentially in a couple of months' time won't, much like New Zealand, will hopefully not necessarily be the be all and end all of our existence. But from what I got reading about product launches and people wanting to see agents in store and product updates being most useful when they're delivered in person. And yes, we still want to catch up with you in the morning and please bring me coffee. And someone mentioned chocolate and hugs as well, which we're always happy to do. To me, that feels very much like what it was beforehand. So are we potentially just dramatising all of this? I don't know if that's a word, but it is now.
Dramatising.
Dramatising, thank you. I just threw a C in there. My favourite letter. But yeah, are we just making a fuss out of nothing, and maybe we just need to ride this out for another 3-4 months and then we're good to go?
I'm going to disagree, Sarah.
Ooh,
sorry.
I
do disagree. I don't, yes, they'll be happy to see us, especially because they probably haven't seen anyone for a while. But I think a lot of, as I mentioned before, some stores, the unfortunate realities might not have their full staff. Some bricks and mortar store might have to move into suites or move from home. I think that, gone are the days where you can go to a shopping centre and you might have 2 or 3 key appointments locked in and you cold call 2. That won't happen because those 2 might be gone, or your agency might only have a 30-minute window for, the amount of times I've gone to see an agent thinking I'll be there for half an hour and an hour later you're still there. I think those days are going to be gone, and it's going to be a lot more, and maybe it always should have been in the past, a lot more strategic, and every single appointment should have always be booked in. But I just think, yes, they will be happy to see us, I agree, but I don't think that we're, as Kate said, dramatising things. I think that it is definitely going to be very, very different out there. I think we'll be more needed than ever, but I don't think that, I think things will be definitely different. The way we have to approach our agents, we have to be extremely sensitive of their time and their business and what it is that they need. And what I sell might not be needed in shop A here, but over shop B they might need me. So I'll work with them.
Which I think Janelle Philpott asked this question earlier. It did pop up. Hi, Janelle, about home agents as well, and I think what's really interesting is potentially the new way forward is the way that home agents have always had to work. Like, we're going to have working from home, not just in travel, has become a huge thing in Australia since lockdown, and companies that have always had a no work from home approach now don't really have that backbone to fall back on because people have been working from home. So I think your travel managers, travel counsellors, MTA, travel, there's another one, Help me. Who's the Flight Centre one?
Travel
Travel
partners.
partners.
Thank you. I think I got all of them. If I didn't, hello. They're really used to working with their reps via correspondence. So I think that we can take some learnings out of how we approach them and apply. You are going to have agents that are happy with a phone call. You are going to have agents that need that full-on dedicated training and want you in there. You're going to have agents that want to specialise in your product. You're going to have agents that sell it if it walks through the door. Just going back a little bit to something Sarah said, I am interested, controversial statement, I am interested to see how much our agents love us if we don't have a budget tied to us. So if we can't bring coffee in for a morning meeting, are you still going to get a morning meeting?
Do you still want to hang?
Yeah, do you still want to see your reps? If, let's call a spade, for mills and high budgets and things like that, are probably going to be some of the first things that have gone and won't pick up for a while. We don't have that disposable income to buy like for our product anymore. It's going to really be based on the product that you have to offer versus, I'll buy you guys a coffee and muffins. Can I come in? So I think that I'm weirdly excited to see that. My ego probably won't be, but you know, how is it going to go if you have nothing to offer your agents apart from the job that you are paid to do and your expert advice and training? How many, if any, are going to fall off your radar because they're kind of just fleecing you for free stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to jump in for a 10-minute warning, everyone. So we're going to look to wrap this up at 2 and then continue on for questions. So if anyone wants to jump off at 2, or you're welcome to come and go whenever you like. It's all recorded, so you can come and look at my face anytime. But Richard's going to jump in and give us a hand with the questions because it's apparently getting really exciting in here. So, but it actually leads me to a question that Stephen York posted in here, and I think it links well to Kate's budget theory. Things like agent expos and film nights as well. Those more traditional physical events, potentially will the Saturday Expo now be a thing of the past, or will a one-on-one film night where you get one brand in to come and present on a product, is that not going to be a thing anymore? Kate talked earlier about colluding with our fellow brands, or colluding, I like that word, I think it sounds cool, but colluding in the sense that maybe we've got an airline that works well with flying for our product, or maybe accommodation to suit this, that and the other. Is that going to be a thing, splitting those costs, or is that even not going to exist? Will Zoom events now be the way
I actually think that the Saturday Expos were on a massive decline before this. They were getting less and less people through the doors, and
costing so much more.
Yeah, and so I think that for a lot of the companies, they were starting to question whether it was viable anymore anyway. So I think that really, if any travel agents are considering doing an expo, I would say don't. Even the ones that are in the mall expos are cheaper, but very, very ineffective.
It's a big tire kicker
for us as brands.
Walking through.
Absolutely. Somebody that's walking past with a shopping trolley that just happens to see a nice picture up on our banner stops in. Now, they might book something down the road, and that's great for the travel agent. But for those of us that give up a day off the road to stand in a shopping centre, the return on investment on that is very, very, very marginal, if you can identify it at all. For the actual Saturday expos themselves, there's a lot of time investment and money investment that goes into those from not only the travel agents, but also from all the suppliers. And for the BDMs, and I think this is something that I've kind of rallied against for the last few years anyway, is the understanding that, yes, we are BDMs and we love our jobs, but we don't love working every Saturday and Sunday.
I do.
I know.
I love expos.
Particularly when a lot of companies, you don't get the time in lieu either.
No.
So, you know, you just do it because that's what you're told to do. So I think some of those things will change. The other thing that I think that we're really looking at on the business development side of things, this has been a bugbear of mine for a long time. That's our job. So our job is to build business. Our job is to set up those relationships, to find out where the business is to be had with any particular travel agent that wants to work with us. we can't be all things to all people. That's impossible. Some may just don't specialize in our product. So, but what we have is the pressure that comes from our head offices that says that we must be. And so we have to fill these quotas, and we have to do 6 or 7 sales calls a day or whatever the company determines. Otherwise, you're not doing your job. I think that is total bullshit.
So do you think that's potentially on the way out now, especially now? I think one of my favorite other buzzwords, I have favorite words, so excuse me, but I feel like sales segmentation is about to become the phrase of the second half of 2020. Social distancing is out and sales segmentation is in, where potentially BDMs are coming back on the road. They're going to be looking after half or even a whole state now, potentially, instead of having 3 or 4 reps per area. What's going to happen with that? Will you do 6 calls a day, or will it be less sales calls potentially because of social distancing? Or will there now be a phone component or a Zoom or a webinar, or will our KPIs change around something like that?
Because you've been missing for 6 months, our company's going to go the opposite way and they want to spread the mass. It's not all necessarily less is more. There will be companies out there that'll go, well, we've missed out on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months of sales calls. We need you to get out there, and unfortunately X amount of companies have closed that used to sell you. You need to now make that business up elsewhere. I've tried to run my business maybe for the last 8 or 9 months with bigger is not better, and just wrapping up with Walter and Expos. My most successful events last year were wine and cheese nights in store, or were morning teas in store.
I agree.
With maybe 5 or 6 really, really hot leads versus a film night where you get 50 people that eat all the food, drink all the drink, and were never intending to go on your product anyway, or have already booked. The amount of people that come to expos and film nights that have already booked.
Just to tell you about the trip they're already going on.
Yeah, and ask you a million questions. So I think bigger is not going to be better. I do fear that there will be companies out there that will want flooding of the market. They won't call it that. They'll call it exposure, but they'll want their BDMs out there doing 8, 9 sales calls a day plus 5 phone calls while you're driving, just to be feeling out what's happening.
But that's kind of the opposite of what your personal brand structure approach is. That is basically exhibit A of bigger is better, is be everywhere, be all over the place, be nice and loud. Oh, and let's throw a plane with a banner in the sky.
But I think one sales call that's worth 8 hours, that's with people that are interested in your product and want to train, is worth more value to your head office than 8 5-minute sales calls in a shopping centre where you put a flyer in or just go, oh, hi, I'm Kate from said company. Just thought I'd pop in and say hi.
Definitely.
Okay, bye.
I've got a suggestion for companies that want to go down that road, because they do want to be seen, and they need to be seen. All companies need to be seen. And that would be to, instead of putting your BDMs in that position, hire the brochure droppers. They can come in, they can make sure that they check your brochure stocks, give you the new ones, take out the old ones, whatever it may be. It's just a quick interaction. But while they're there, do you have any questions that you need to give to head office?
Like the
and then that way there's a quick interaction. They're in, they're out, but their job is not to sit there and work out a marketing plan, because that takes time. And that's our expertise, and that's what we do well, and driving the business through their doors. So what we're trying to do when we do our jobs, as you guys know, is we sit there with the agent and it's saying, well, how can we drive business through your door? We're not interested in taking a piece of the pie. As professional BDMs, we're interested in growing the pie.
Yeah.
So it's not about robbing one off the other. It's about actually growing and increasing the amount of people that travel.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's my
So we've got
stand.
a bunch of really interesting questions, but I'm just going to wrap up with one last potentially controversial statement that I've just forgotten because I got distracted. But okay, this is potentially going to lead into, hopefully will develop into a bit more of a series where I can talk to some of the decision makers of the bigger brands and businesses in a couple of weeks' time. So stay tuned, everybody that's watching, for part 2 of this. You get to listen to me for another hour. You're welcome. But for us as BDMs then, feeding this feedback up the food chain, or with our own opinions and ideas on how we should be structuring our return to building relationships, how much of a say do you reckon we're actually going to get about this?
Limited.
Oh, I think a lot, because, well, in my position where I work, my leaders, they trust my opinion and know that we know what's going on the road, and we're the ones with the relationships with our agents. So I think in the past, I have had to do quite a lot of, had high KPIs and visit a lot of agents a day, but I have no doubt that will change by 50%, and it'll probably be more like just 4 key meetings, business planning sessions a day. And as you said, Kate, one of those is worth like 8 flyers in one store or in one day. But I think it depends on who you're working for. But I think that every company should definitely listen to their BDM, because we are the eyes and ears of the industry. We're the ones that are working with the agents, and we can help the company essentially get return on investment, which is what everyone wants.
Yeah, I think probably because I have not had my normal job since the 8th of April. I'm happy for them to tell me whatever they want from me, and I'll do it straight away. No worries. But I think did that make me sound desperate? It didn't. It wasn't supposed to. I'm more than happy to have an end goal. And then you, as the BDM who knows your territory, who knows your state, knows how you work, know your agents, you have the flexibility and the fluidity to be able to do whatever means possible to get there. But I do think, the bigger picture of this whole thing is that, I hate this term, but it's true. The BDMs are one cog in the massive wheel of the travel industry. And yes, we do have to understand that from the outside, it looks like all of the companies that we work for earn all of this money, and they're just sitting there like Scrooge McDuck rolling around in their cash. But in reality, the amount of reinvestment that any company is doing back into their fleet, or back into their airlines, or back into anything at the moment. I mean, I know Virgin's very different, but everyone's calling on Richard Branson, and he's kind of like, hey guys, I'm a billionaire, but I'm not part of this. I think that it's easy to sit back and go, we want to come back and run our business the way that we want it, but realistically we do work for other people, and I work for private enterprise. So at the end of the day, it is actually someone's livelihood and someone's business that I'm employed to increase. Walter, you work for yourself, but it's the same capacity. So tell me what you want, but listen to me when I give you the feedback that I will get it for you, but to my own means. Don't try and restrict how I can get there. Just let me get there.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it, to open up for some questions. So if anybody needs to disappear, no problem. You can always just tune back in.
Okay, bye.
Whenever you're ready. It's recorded. Yeah, it's very busy and important, as you can see. Okay, cool. Here is actually a really interesting comment from Mandy Forrester. So maybe I'll launch into the questions.
Good afternoon.
Questions.
Hey,
hello, Richard.
Hey,
Looking up from me now.
I'm just coming to help with questions. Sorry, I know there have been a couple of questions saying it's great not to see Richard today. And I'm cognizant of that, but we've got quite a lot. So yes, as Sarah said, feel free to disappear, but carry on with that, Sarah, and I'll just read out some of the other ones in a minute.
All right, cool. I'm just going to put Richard on mute because I can, and I've always wanted to do that. Okay, so from Mandy Forrester Jones, one thing you need to also know is that many operators have been chasing directs and taking TAs out of the loop, hence the review of preferreds, which I'm assuming is referring to Walter's survey from before. One of his questions to travel agents was, how important was preferred relationships and booking through preferred suppliers, pre-COVID, versus how important is it going to be coming out the other side? We need reassurance that you guys are not going to do that. I know, speaking speaking from my perspective, no, we are not looking to do that, purely because we do not have the manpower to be able to field hopefully the amount of business that is going to be coming as restrictions start to lift and people start to travel again. So it would be very, very counterintuitive for us to be basically directing traffic straight to our res team.
I wonder where
This is
this
a very
perception
difficult
comes
question.
from, though. Yeah, I always wonder where it comes from. Like business.
Because it's true. Because it's true, Kate. There are companies, there are wholesalers, suppliers that will go direct to the consumer, and that comes in part because consumers go direct to the companies. And a company that I worked for previously, a very large company, who would never take direct bookings, ended up having to take it because when they called back, so for example, the call center would get an inquiry and they would say, no, you have to go through a travel agent. When they called them back to see if they'd gone to a travel agent, the answer was no, they had booked direct with somebody else. So they were never booking that through a travel agent, and all that was happening was that particular company was losing business by doing the right thing, but they're still losing business. So sometimes you have to make a commercial decision and say, well, look, we can't lose the business, just the same as a travel agent, can't lose the business. If they prefer company A over company B and their client insists on company B, they can't lose the business by saying, no, we can only sell you company A. So it is a fine line. Most of the reputable companies in Australia that have preferred agreements with the travel agents do try to do the right thing as much as is possible. And there are a lot of different rules depending on the company as to when you can hand back a booking to a travel agent, how far that booking has been processed, where it came from. So it's quite complicated. But for most of the companies in Australia that I'm aware of, their direct business is very small. And so a particular travel agent will get a booking that will be booked direct with the wholesaler or tour operator. And that is a big deal for that particular agent.
I think something that probably doesn't help the perception is, I guess, putting my marketing hat on, and advertising in papers and potentially on television and all of these other things. It can sometimes make it a difficult message to convey. There's this brand and they're selling this product, so you should definitely book it. And you can either call us or you can book through a travel agent. So maybe it is something where we need to collude better. Post
lockdown, as Kate calls it, there'll be some campaigns to really, I've seen it all over Facebook. I've personally shared things and seen other rep friends share things, just how we all need to support our travel agents. I hope that there actually are, because at the end of the day, like Walter says, a business needs to sell their product. So whether they get it through the travel agent or the direct, they're increasing their profit. And every company has a different policies as, how they give back the booking. But I hope after all this, there will be campaigns out, to support the travel agent. And I really think in all the small local communities, your regional communities, all the, consumers there will be putting the business through the travel agent, because it's pretty obvious that the travel sector's, on its knees. So I would hope, rather than the big companies advertising in the paper, even if they are, that when the consumer sees that, they actually take it into their local travel agent and book with them. That's what I hope. I'm being very optimistic, but I would hope.
I know a lot of reps. I've got rep friends, obviously present company included. I always say to my agents when they talk about present company not included, that was hurtful. When they talk about direct, I'm very forthcoming with saying that I am an agency sales rep. I actually get paid if you get paid. So I have no need to push a booking to direct. My company has amazing processes in place, like Walter was talking about, where we actually say to customers, do you book with an agent? What's your postcode? We can recommend this agency to you. But I've also been privy in my 3 years in Melbourne to clients who have spoken with such enthusiasm to a travel agent, turn around and spoken to us and gone, I don't want to book with them. I don't want to book with a travel agent. My best friend Doris's daughter's sister's dog walker's boyfriend had a really bad experience with a travel agent and I do not want to book. And you just can't change their mind. And it's naive to think that we're going to turn away that business if it's not through an agent. But I do agree with Walter that the majority of businesses out there push it through an agent. We sit somewhere between 75 and 82%. And the previous company that I worked for, both very big companies in Australia, was the same. We want it through agents. We want to help you guys, but we're not going to turn it away if a customer wants to book direct.
And just an excellent point that Kate made there, which I've been trumpeting for the last 16 years, with the travel agents, is that pretty much every BDM that I know, their KPIs are built on growth through the retail travel agent sector. We get no kudos whatsoever for direct booking. So we hate direct bookings just as much as a travel agent does. So just so that's really crystal clear.
Okay, so let's get on to some questions. Sorry, guys. Trying to control salespeople talking like herding cats. I'm sorry, but I'm probably also not helping. Yeah. So comment from Donna, fingers crossed JobKeeper is extended. Can I just say that you guys are all fab. Looking forward to seeing your smiling faces post all of this. BDMs are integral to us agents and will be even more so coming out of this, albeit multi-skilled after this.
May I jump in at this point just to say thank you, Sarah, for hosting this today, and also to you, to you, Kate, Neil, and Walter. It's really been terrific. The comments that I've gone nuts, and I'm thrilled that you've taken the time to do it.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Now be quiet. I'm about to read a question. So this one's from, I'm going to put you on mute again, from John Gartner to us. Would love to hear opinions on no commissions for next X months due to no bookings. I'm reading that as potentially within a travel agency, not necessarily the wholesaler.
I'm reading it as targets probably.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If reps have, all reps have sales targets. So obviously it's going to be a slow burn getting back on the road. So that's how I'm kind of reading it, what his opinion is. And I personally think, look, there's not going to be, at first it's going to be really slow and we've just got to ride the wave. There's not much we can do about it. And I actually will just share with everyone right now, I nearly fell off my chair yesterday and I wasn't even sitting down, I was standing up, but I got a message for an inquiry for Antarctica 2022 for a group. My first inquiry in a few months, but my point is it's going to be a slow burn of bookings coming through and we've just got to celebrate the wins along the way.
That's very true.
If you've got anything
okay, next, Pete Rawley. The importance of quality BDMs, professional salespeople, and innovative thinking in how you work with your agent customers will increase significantly as the market returns. No doubt you four will be fine, with a winky face.
Thanks.
Thanks, Pete.
That's adorable.
Thanks, Pete. Got a job going?
Okay, Richard's about to jump in with some Facebook ones because I can't see the Facebook comments. Yeah. So, Richard, you're allowed to talk now. I'm the captain now.
Thank you. Yes, there are about 51 comments on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, look, we're not
guys, we're so popular.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I got all day.
I've learned something today, and it's not to involve me in future ones. And it's actually very difficult to see them all, but I'll just whip through some of them for you. They're coming up faster than I can read them. BDMs and agents are like a hand in glove, not coffee and muffins. We are people's industry and need the context, says Philip Boniface.
Good, yay!
That's a really good way to put it.
Some people agreeing with Walter for some comments he made earlier on. Qualified clients, says Nikki Ross. Danielle Zanetti. I couldn't agree more with Walter. There was already a negative trend in trade shows, just little justification on the cost despite the maximization of our time on the road. Something perhaps not with an impact as big, but in the years I noticed how appreciated was the distribution of collateral, marketing material, etc. How do you think this will be impacted? Are agents traditionally attached to a tangible material going to adjust? Well, let's go to one of you for that. Go and choose someone, Sarah.
I'm going to choose myself.
Oh.
Just quickly, yeah. No, for myself, I look after sales and marketing for my business. So what we're noticing, or what I'm noticing is, and hopefully you guys agree, is an increasing trend of people asking for co-op collateral. So that I think the importance is going to be really quickly accessible, easy, bite-sized. white label pieces that people can put their own contact details and own logo on, and potentially even some assistance in helping with the less fun aspects of marketing, like making up an inspirational social media post and finding you a nice picture and links and things like that to go with it, helping you along those lines, rather than just throwing another brochure at you, I think is going to be the most important way to go.
Cool. Nikki Ross says the big travel expos were also run by one major retailer. Only the wholesalers who could afford to be preferred have a chance. Let's move on from that one. I won't get you to comment on that. This is for obvious reasons.
I can see here that that someone says, Walter, they love your shirt. Is that new? Dave Reeves.
Thanks, Dave.
We're asking the most important questions here.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity with your time as a BDM. Totally agree,
100%.
Kate. And that's from Natalie Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
Steve Farrelly.
Thanks, Nat.
Steve Farrelly, reps will, or brackets should, have a significant impact post-COVID. They need to spread the word on, hey, we survived. This is how we're accommodating clients post-COVID. Is it safe to travel with us? Sorry, it's safe to travel with us. Let's rock. The real estate of that message will be very important for agents and guests alike. Hope business support reps getting back out there. Andrew Perry Insight is 95% agents and only 2 direct sales consultants. Very different to my days in cruise. Alex, I can never pronounce her surname, Oblashuk, she's from Tour Atlas. Can suppliers maybe run a campaign where travelers can get 5% off when they book through an agent? That's worth talking about. Sarah, choose someone.
Yeah, I'm going to throw to Kate on this one. Just to
I've got a
clarify,
controversial answer though.
Oh, bring it. I'm glad I picked.
Again, I would just remind any agents, agency owners, or anyone out there that where like your suppliers are hurting as well, in terms of income. So while I'm deeply empathetic that your livelihood is diminished, because mine is as well. This shirt was $8. Compliment me in the comments. I also think that if you're asking your suppliers to give 5%, the way to get traction with that would be, we want to do a campaign that's 5%. We will give 2.5. Can you give 2.5? Because you don't want your suppliers bankrupt. You know, we saw that with everyone calling for refunds and future tour credits and all of that. Everyone's in the same race. It's just that your supplier's volume is a lot more in terms of income, but you can't hemorrhage money from your suppliers either. So we need to come up with competitive ways to promote travel agents, but monetary may not be the best way because we just don't have it. And if it comes between me going back out on the road and losing my job and travel agents getting 5% off, don't mean to sound rude, but you know which one I'm going for. I'll make you that money. I'll make you that money up some other way. But, you know, I think it's worth just keeping that in mind when you're asking your suppliers for money in the next maybe 6 months.
I think the most important thing is going to be patience while we all figure this out. We're all very much winging it at the moment. Sorry, Richard.
It's all right. Cheryl Vargas Venegas says, would BDMs consider a more mini, inverted commas, personalized expo night for agents? For example, a small agency might not have time to have multiple nights, so stay back for an hour or two in store and have a couple of BDMs visit simultaneously. It could be structured in different ways so that either competitors highlighting their point of difference or relevant products that share relevant links.
That's like a great idea.
Absolutely.
I've done a couple of those actually in the past, just getting an airline, a product, obviously non-competitors, 5 different suppliers, we'll chuck in and get agents there. And I think it works really well because, as Walter said, expos are a dying breed. They're gone. So I think that's, definitely moving forward.
I've had something similar.
Sorry, just with Kate had mentioned it earlier about some of the best or the biggest impacts have been the wine and cheese evenings. And I would echo that through the hills because you have a smaller amount of people, but you can still have multiple suppliers, but come in, have
Did we just lose Walter?
Yeah, I
wine
think
and cheese,
so.
talk to the suppliers. Absolutely. It's low key, but they can actually ask the questions.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I loved a recent VIP one that I went to for an actual agency just before lockdown, where there was 5 of think 5 or 6 different suppliers from a range of different luxury products. And so the overall message was luxury. And we got some really interesting, a lot of really great feedback from basically a 10-minute presentation and a little bit of an expo stand. And, you know, them and their closest 60 clients. So having it more intimate, and their clients were stoked to be able to come because it was such an intimate setting and they felt really important as well. So I guess that relationship between the agent and their consumer played a really big part in the success of that event as well. So big fan of the VIP events. Richard, do you have any more Facebook? Because I've got a really interesting
I've got them all
one.
afternoon. I literally have them all. We might need to wrap up. Like we'll give it till 2:30. Again, thanks for everyone who's joined.
I have seen the same question pop up twice, asking on the chat, asking when reps are going to be back on the road, when BDMs think they're going to be back on the road. So
yes, that was going to be my question.
Oh, sorry, I cut your lunch. Sorry. I just saw it pop up for the second time.
If you'd like to moderate this group, Tennille.
I'm so sorry. This is what happens when you get a bunch of BDMs in the row. We all love to talk in your own voice. Sorry.
So many chiefs. Yeah. I'm the captain. No, but seriously, what do you think is going to be? Well, Tennille, you can answer the question then. What is going to be the magic go button?
Yeah, I don't have the answer, and that's why it's a great question, because for me at the moment, like I'm on JobKeeper, like I don't know come September what's going to happen. I'd love to go back out on the road, but also my reality is, I'll be pushing 2022 Antarctic season. It just, I don't have the answer for that. So for me, it's a sit and wait. Whereas if I was, I guess, selling the whole world, or I was speaking to another rep friend last Friday and she's going back on the road next week because she sells cruises in Australia. So I think that question there's not one answer. It depends what you're representing and what your company's selling.
Also got to be a little bit careful because there was something that popped up on Facebook the other day, and I know both the BDM and the agent, and they're both really beautiful people, doing the first sales call essentially. So they took a nice little snapshot and posted it on Facebook. And one of the comments that came through straight away was social distancing. So we need to be mindful of the fact that, again, perception is reality. So even if we are doing those happy snaps and everything, we don't think anything of it, it can have a negative impact to somebody else. So we do need to make sure we adhere to those social distancing rules, even those that are out there already out on the road. And
There's going to be a lot of anxiety around that.
Absolutely. Just swinging to the survey that came through, the first question was, how would you like to see the BDM sales call post-COVID? And 67% of the travel agents said always make an appointment. So
we should be doing that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, good BDMs do that anyway, but I think it is so much more important now to make sure that you are calling ahead and making those appointments. Because there's so much stress that is going on anyway, and you just don't want to walk into that for your own self-assurance and for the sake of the travel agent.
One of my US counterparts actually did. Hi, Roger, if you're watching over in the US. This is global, guys. So what they've done, he actually did a sales call earlier this week and sent us a picture of it, and it's 2 travel agents sitting on one side of a big coffee table, him sitting on the other. Everyone's got their face masks on and there's a little iPad in between them and nobody's touching anything. So potentially for the first little while, it's going to be very, very baby steps, or will it be kind of over cautious? But
I think it's got to be agent-led. Yeah, it's got to be agent-led. I'm stood down until the 30th of September. So the whole of my sales team did not get stood down. Only 50% of us did. So there's still a number of people for my company still working. I think they'll get out on the road relatively soon. But I would hate to be in that position, because being primarily international is our biggest book of business. You want to stimulate it, but it's really hard to kind of go, are we going to be able to jump on a cruise ship in April next year?
In
Hope
Europe,
so, but I don't,
or...
I don't really know. I think it's got to be agent-led. Start with the phone, start ringing your agents and seeing how they are. Are their staff back? There might still only be 2 people in store. They still might be probably are still dealing with refunds. So just say to them, we're looking at getting back out on the road, and I wouldn't be aiming for full days of sales calls. 1 or 2, head home. 1 or 2 twice a week and head home. No one needs to be out there, going back to what we said earlier, busting out 8 sales calls a day at this present stage in time. I don't think that would send the right message to anyone, to be honest.
I think a catalyst is also going to be our various companies actually having a plan for what's going to happen. If things do get cancelled again or need to get postponed again, what does the process look like for that? What is the confidence booster? How are we going to be protecting that potential business that the agent is now going to start having to book again so that we don't have this same situation happen should things end up needing to be extended as well?
I think one of the things that we have to be really mindful of is when we do start going back out on the road is that everyone has their own rules with regards to social distancing.
Yeah.
Most BDMs that I know will give everybody a big hug. That's the type of people that we are, and it's very difficult to counteract that. We have to. But on the other side of the counter, a lot of the travel agents are the same way. So we just have to be really mindful of the fact that we still need to have the social distancing going on, and it is freaking awkward. But any of you guys have been up there since we've been able to go out and socialise. I met up with some friends the other day.
It's me, or
we would always
be underwater.
Lost Walter.
Yeah.
The internet's awkward, Walter.
Yeah.
My whole life is awkward.
Okay. Sorry, Walter.
But it is about adhering to those social distancing rules and understanding not everybody will be as comfortable as you may be. And that is from both the travel agent perspective and the BDM perspective.
Yeah.
So just something to be really, really conscious of going out.
Okay. I'm going to herd some cats for a second. So Richard can read a few more comments and we can wrap up because we've got
we're going to need
technically 35 minutes over, but
they say you shouldn't do this, but it's been great, just great. And I'm just going to literally whiz you. we can't even answer these. I think this should be incorporated into part 2.
Yay!
Sarah. This is a strange man called Jake Cassar who is making comments. Now I say he's strange because one of his comments says, "TH, shut up."
That's me.
Yeah, but then another one is really nice. He says, "We're all in this together. We agents need you guys as much as you need us. We've got this."
Oh,
yeah.
Group virtual hug.
Oh, he's made up.
I wish there was a button
Virtual
for
hug,
that.
Jake.
And some other nice ones. Stephen York, another question I'm not reading out because you've already had one.
Does anyone have some nice ones?
We do discuss this in the when we do our travel industry pubs on Friday. So like our page, if you want, if you're on the call and you want to learn more about when these things get released, and you can also join via our website, thetravelindustryhub.com. for that. I just wanted to mention that, and I reckon I'm done because we just can't cover all these. I'm so grateful for all the comments, and Sarah, I'm going to hand back to you.
Yay.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Richard, for powering through those comments for us. So I'm going to wrap up now. As Richard mentioned, Travel Industry Hub's a really great place to visit their website, all one word, because Richard's spacebar is broken or something, thetravelindustryhub.com. You can also watch recordings of past webinars as well, and there's some really interesting thought leaders who have presented on a whole range of topics. And of course, most important appointment in my calendar of the week is a 6 p.m. travel industry pub tonight. You can zoom in, it's BYO, come and go as you like, and basically it dissolves into chats very similar to this, so all are welcome.
I think we should take some of those questions that didn't get answered and bring them along tonight to the travel industry pub, so we can actually have a discussion along with that.
Run. Boom. And so
I'm back. The pub will run this evening. If you're interested, I will post a link on the call.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thanks,
So thank you, Tennille. Thank you, Kate. Thank you,
Thanks,
Walter,
guys.
for your time and your opinions, and nobody punching anyone virtually, getting angry, no name calling like there was before this.
You said you wouldn't mention that.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning into this call as well. It means a lot that there were so many people interested and engaged in this. So I think there's going to be a lot more conversations on this. So we're not by any means giving you the answers because we don't know them ourselves. well. So I look forward to hopefully hosting another one of these in a couple of weeks with some people from a different aspect of the travel industry and having a similar chat multiple times so we can explore this and work through it together. So sending you all love and hugs, and however Ellen DeGeneres signs off her show. But thank you so much for attending. Have a great afternoon.
Well done, Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
guys.
Well done,
Bye.
Sarah.
See you guys.